Chosen one. Pause right here. Heaven has stopped you in your tracks. Not by chance. Not because of an algorithm, but because a divine interruption is unfolding in your life. You have crossed a line you didn't even realize you were standing on. The heavens have been watching, and today, your name has been spoken. The silence you endured was not abandonment, it was preparation. For so long, you walked through days that felt ordinary. Yet behind those ordinary days, God was conducting an unseen test. You wondered why doors stayed shut, why answers were delayed, why every attempt seemed to meet resistance. What you did not realize was that your obedience in the dark was being measured, your loyalty in silence was being recorded, and your faith under pressure was being weighed. And now, the scale has tipped in your favor. You passed. Imagine for a moment a seed buried deep in the soil. It feels the crushing weight of the earth above, pressed down by silence, surrounded by darkness. Yet, within, life stirs. The soil is not punishment, it is protection. That is what your last season was like. You were hidden, pressed, and covered not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen. And now, just as a seed breaks through the earth after rain, you too are breaking through into light. I think of one chosen one whose story mirrors yours. They spent years applying for jobs, only to face rejection after rejection. Nights were filled with tears that no one else saw. People around them whispered, "Maybe it's not meant to be." But in secret, they clung to God's promises. They prayed when their prayers felt unanswered. They believed when belief felt foolish. Then, in a single week, everything shifted. A door opened they never knocked on, and provision poured in from directions they never expected. Their waiting was not wasted, it was proof of faith. Just like them, you are standing on the threshold of your own divine turn. Listen carefully. This is a holy pause. It is as if heaven pressed its hand on your shoulder and said, "Stop. Do not rush past this moment. Receive what I am declaring. The storms you walked through have ended, and the silence has spoken. You are still here. And because you are still here, you qualify. As written in the scroll of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 8, "The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty." Let those words settle deep within you. Resources do not belong to systems, banks, or men. They belong to God, and the God who owns it all has chosen to release it into your life. This is why you had to endure the testing, so you would know that your supply was never dependent on men's approval, but on God's covenant. Picture yourself standing in a vast courtroom. The judge of all creation has just pounded his gavel, declaring, "Case closed. They have passed the test. Now release the resources." This is not imagination. It is a heavenly decree over your life today. And as you receive this, let it sink deep. You are stepping into a season where God Himself funds your journey. The strength you need, the provision you lacked, the peace you craved, it will not come from human hands alone. It comes from the throne. You will not have to strive the same way you once did. Just as a lighthouse guides ships through raging seas, you are being anchored by divine direction that keeps you steady while provision flows. Chosen one. Pause and breathe this in. The heavens are not asking you to figure out the how. They are asking you to simply believe the who. It is not coincidence that you are here. It is divine design. If this word touches you, if something in your spirit stirs as you hear it, I invite you leave a comment. Share what resonates most with you. Share this message so another weary chosen one can also pause and remember they are seen. Subscribe so you can continue walking this journey with us. Because heaven is not done speaking into your destiny. And if your heart desires, consider supporting this mission so that these words can reach further and heal deeper. This is only the beginning. You are about to see why the pause was necessary, why the silence was holy, and why your faith mattered more than you knew. And remember this, when God funds your life, no hand can shut the flow. What once felt like scarcity will now feel like overflow. You will stand as living proof that His covenant is unshakable, His provision undeniable, His timing perfect. You passed, and heaven's resources are now aligned with you. Type 111" the comments if you receive this word as a prophetic act that you step into covenant provision today. You did not arrive here easily. The path that shaped you was marked by fire, and every trial became a forge for your soul. Tests did not come to destroy you, but to prove you. Just as gold is heated until impurities rise and are removed, your life has been purified by the flames of adversity. The pressure you felt was not an accident. It was the hand of God refining you, preparing you for the moment you now enter. Think back to the nights when everything in you wanted to give up. You looked around and saw others moving ahead, doors opening for them, while yours remained shut. People misunderstood your silence, not realizing that silence itself was part of your training. There were prayers you prayed that seemed unanswered, but in truth, heaven was answering them in ways you could not yet see. Each delay was building something eternal within you. There was once a woman, a quiet servant in the house of God, who felt forgotten by everyone. For years, she worked tirelessly in a place that brought her no recognition. When others were promoted, she was overlooked. When she longed for affirmation, none came. Yet she chose faithfulness. Every morning she whispered, "Lord, I will still serve you," even unseen. And in her unseen faithfulness, God was weaving a story. One day, a door opened that changed her life completely. She was entrusted with responsibilities beyond her imagination, and those who once ignored her now honored her wisdom. She had been tested by fire, but her endurance proved her worth. You too have been in that furnace. Like clay pressed on a potter's wheel, you were spun through seasons that stretched you, pulled you, and reshaped you. The spinning felt endless, but without it, you could not hold what is about to be poured into your life. The vessel must first be strong enough to carry the oil. That is why you were tested not for failure, but for capacity. The scriptures reveal that testing always precedes elevation. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, and left in prison before he sat on Pharaoh's throne. David wandered in caves, hunted by Saul, before he wore the crown of Israel. Even Jesus himself was led into the wilderness, tested for 40 days. Before stepping into public ministry, testing is not a detour, it is the road itself. And so your struggles were not wasted. They carved resilience into you. They sharpened your discernment. They taught you how to recognize what is real from what is false. Without the pressure, you might have accepted less than God's best. Without the fire, You might have mistaken counterfeit for covenant. But because of the refining, you are now able to stand in what truly belongs to you. Imagine a sword being forged. First, the iron is heated until glowing, then hammered repeatedly, blow after blow, strike after strike, until the metal is shaped and strengthened. That is what happened to your spirit. The blows of life felt relentless, but they created a sharpness in you that cannot be dulled. You are no longer fragile. You are battle-ready. There were voices that told you, you will not make it. There were whispers that said, you are not strong enough. But those voices did not know what God was forming within you. Each time you stood back up after being knocked down, heaven recorded it. Each time you chose faith over fear, your name echoed in the courts above. You were proving, even to yourself, that the fire could not consume you. And now the testing season has reached its conclusion. You stand on the other side of the furnace, and the smell of smoke is not even on you. You are not defined by the heat you endured, but by the strength you now carry. According to what is revealed in the book of Job, chapter 23, verse 10, when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. This is the testimony of your life. You have been placed in the fire, refined, and tested. And now, as you call on his name, heaven responds with favor, with supply, with an undeniable declaration that you are his. The fire was never about breaking you. It was always about proving that you belong to him. So take a deep breath in this moment. Recognize what you survived. Honor the journey that shaped you. And understand that every scar carries a story of triumph. The tests that seemed to delay you were actually the very proof that prepared you. You were tested by fire, and you came out gold. There are tears you never told anyone about. Nights when the room was silent, but your pillow was wet, and your chest carried the weight of words. You could not speak aloud. Those tears were not wasted. Heaven recorded them. Every single one. You thought no one noticed, but the eyes of God were on you in the secret place. When you were misunderstood, when you were rejected, when the world gave you labels, you never asked for heaven, wrote it all down. Not to shame you, but to build the case for your destiny. You were not being ignored. You were being documented. Every tear was an entry in the heavenly record of your endurance. And now, those records stand as testimony. You did not break. You did not surrender. And for that reason, you have passed into a new chapter. There is a sacred mystery in suffering. What others called weakness was, in fact, the soil of strength. Like rain that seeps deep into the roots of a tree, your tears carried nutrients that strengthened your spirit. The storms watered your faith, and though the leaves looked withered, the roots were growing deeper. What felt like loss was secretly growth. I think of a man who spent years trying to build a life for his family. Each attempt seemed to collapse in his hands. When bills piled up, he would pray in whispers. No one else heard. Many nights he sat at his kitchen table staring at unpaid notices, wondering if God had forgotten him. But every whisper, every sigh, was a seed sown. One day, an unexpected opportunity came, and everything shifted. He looked back and realized that every hidden cry had been a brick in the foundation God was laying for his future. You too are standing on such a foundation. What you thought were wasted moments were actually stones placed beneath your feet, lifting you higher. The weight of your hidden suffering has become the platform of your testimony. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8, "You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book?" This truth is staggering. Every restless night, every tear that burned your face, was not ignored, it was collected. Heaven keeps a record, not of your failures, but of your faithfulness in the midst of pain. And now, that record cries out, it is time for restoration. Do not despise the nights you wept in silence, because those nights are the reason joy is coming in the morning. You have endured the shadows, and because of that, light will not simply visit you, it will rest upon you. Now I invite you to declare in the comments, "My tears matter." Why this phrase? Because it is more than comfort. It is a reminder to your own soul that nothing you endured was wasted. By typing it, you are agreeing with the truth that every hidden cry carried weight in heaven. You are standing against the lie that your pain was meaningless, and you are stepping into the testimony that God is already turning sorrow into strength. When you type, "My tears matter," you are doing more than leaving a comment. You are writing a covenant statement. It is your way of saying, "God, I know you saw me. I know you counted what others dismissed. I believe that nothing was wasted." This declaration is powerful because it shifts your perspective from pain to purpose. It tells the enemy that what he meant for harm has now become evidence of God's faithfulness, and it reminds your heart that restoration is not a distant hope, it is happening now. By affirming these three words, you are stepping boldly into your new chapter of joy. Understand this, the world may have overlooked you, but God never did. Every time you were told you were too much or not enough, heaven whispered back, "You are chosen." Every wound has been transformed into weight of authority, weight of testimony, weight of blessing that cannot be shaken. So hold your head high. You do not need to explain your story to everyone. The one who wrote it knows every detail, and he declares, "Those who sowed in tears shall now reap in joy." You are walking into a season where your private pain becomes public proof of God's faithfulness. Your story will become someone else's survival guide, and your tears, which you thought were buried in darkness, are rising now as a river of blessing, flooding into your future. You are not standing here by accident. The sheer fact that you survived what tried to destroy you is the greatest proof that you are chosen. Many went through battles similar to yours and did not make it through with their faith intact. Yet here you are still breathing, still believing, still holding on, even if only by a thread. That thread was not weakness. It was the lifeline God Himself placed in your hand. There were moments you wondered why you were different, why others could walk away easily, but you could not, why their conscience seemed unbothered, while yours pulled you back every time. This is not coincidence, it is covenant. When God has His mark upon you, you cannot blend in. You were never designed to fit the mold of the crowd. Think of Israel in Egypt. They lived among a people who worshipped false gods. Yet a mark distinguished them. Even when plagues fell, the mark spared them. In the same way, you have been preserved through storms others could not endure. The mark of God set you apart, and that mark is why you are still here. I remember the story of a young man who wandered from faith, seeking to live like everyone else around him. Parties, distractions, and pursuits that promised joy but left him empty. Yet no matter how far he went, something inside him kept calling him back. While others seemed comfortable in the chaos, he could not find peace there. One night, after yet another attempt to silence the voice inside, he fell to his knees and prayed a simple prayer. God, I don't want to run anymore. That prayer became the turning point. Years later, he realized the reason he could not blend in was because he was never meant to. He was marked, and so are you. When you think about your life, you may see scars, times of betrayal, seasons of rejection, battles that left you weary. But those scars are not evidence of defeat, they are evidence of survival. They testify that the attacks of the enemy could not erase your name from the book of life. Your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. Even science tells us that when a bone breaks and heals, the place of healing becomes stronger than before. So it is with your soul. What was broken in you is now reinforced by the hand of God. You are not fragile, you are fortified. You carry strength that cannot be explained by natural means because it was forged in supernatural preservation. The prophet Jeremiah spoke, as recorded in chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Let these words settle deep into you. Before your first cry, before your first step, before your first heartbreak, he already knew you. You were set apart before you ever walked into the fire. This is why the fire could not consume you, why the waters could not drown you, why the weight could not crush you. You were not random. You were chosen. This truth explains the tension you often feel, the reason you cannot settle for less. The reason mediocrity makes you restless is because destiny pulls on you. You were not created to merely exist. You were designed to carry divine purpose. And when divine purpose is upon you, nothing ordinary can satisfy. Think of an eagle raised among chickens. For a time it scratches at the ground like the others. But one day, instinct awakens. It lifts its eyes and sees the sky, and something within it whispers, "You were made for more." No matter how long it tried to live like the rest, it could never deny its wings. That is your story. The wings of purpose are attached to you, and you cannot unsee the sky. You survived because you had to. The future demands your presence. There are people waiting to hear your testimony, lives waiting to be touched by your words, generations waiting to walk in the freedom you will model. If you had quit, they would have lost their example. But you did not quit. You endured. And because you endured, your destiny remains intact. Not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. You carry the fingerprints of God, and no storm, no betrayal, no rejection could erase them. You are living proof that what was meant to destroy you has instead become the stage of your rising. Lift your eyes now. See how every season fits together, not as random pain, but as intentional shaping. The storms revealed your strength. The rejections refined your discernment. The battles sharpened your authority. You are here, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. Your scars are not your identity, they are your evidence. Evidence that you were known, set apart, and preserved for such a time as this. A crown waits for you, not a crown forged by human hands. Not one made of fading metals or decorated with jewels that can lose their shine. No, this crown is eternal, placed upon your life by the King of Kings. It is not only a symbol of honor, but a declaration that you have been found faithful, that you endured, and that you are now ready to reign in the place assigned to you. There is something about crowns that captures our imagination. In earthly kingdoms, crowns are earned through inheritance or conquest. But in the kingdom of God, crowns are given to the ones who did not give up when they could have. You were refined in fire, proven in silence, and lifted through trials. And now, heaven prepares to crown you, not for appearances, but for authority. Think of the Apostle Paul, who wrote of a crown of righteousness reserved for those who remained steadfast until the end. He did not speak of comfort or earthly success. He spoke of endurance. You are stepping into the same reality. The unseen victories of your past season, the prayers prayed, the choices made, the nights endured have become jewels in your crown. There was once a woman who worked quietly behind the scenes in her community. She cared for the forgotten, shared food when she had little herself, and spoke life to those who were near despair. Few saw her sacrifice, and many overlooked her significance. But when tragedy struck her town, it was her voice everyone turned to. In that moment, she realized that her hidden faithfulness had prepared her for visible authority. What looked like ordinary kindness became the crown upon her life. Your story is no different. Your hidden endurance has prepared you for visible elevation, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 21. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will set you over many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And these words are not distant, they are near. This is what heaven speaks over you as you step into this new chapter. Faithfulness in small, hidden, painful moments has opened the door to greater assignments. You are being crowned with joy, with authority, with divine responsibility. This crown is not only about recognition, it is about function. Crowns are worn by leaders, and leaders carry responsibility. Do not fear this weight. It is not a burden, but an honor. The same God who preserved you in testing is the God who will sustain you in reigning. You will not carry this crown in your own strength, but in His. Pause for a moment and let this vision settle. You, the one who once questioned your worth, now standing with a crown placed on your head. You, the one who thought your story ended in defeat, now walking forward with authority. Heaven has shifted the narrative. Where there was shame, there is now honor. Where there was silence, there is now recognition. Where there was loss, there is now reward. This is also a season to share. Just as a crown shines not for itself, but to reflect the light upon it, your life is meant to reflect this testimony outward. What God is doing in you is not just for you, it is for those who will see your transformation and believe. Your crown is a signal, a beacon, an invitation for others to discover the same faithfulness of God. And here is where I speak from the heart. If this message has stirred you, if you feel the weight of these words aligning with your spirit, I invite you to help this crown shine brighter when you like, share, or subscribe. You are not only affirming this word for yourself, you are allowing it to reach another chosen one who may be on the verge of giving up. Your simple action can be the light that pulls someone else out of darkness. If you feel led, even consider sowing into this work through support or donation. Every seed helps carry this message further, so more crowns can be claimed, more lives can be lifted, Not because of me, not because of any platform, but because heaven's words are meant to flow where they are needed most. Remember, the crown is not fragile. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be tarnished. It cannot be misplaced. It has been placed upon you by God Himself. And when He crowns, He also covers your steps, your provision, your future. You are not stepping into a season of scarcity, but into a season of honor. Lift your head, chosen one. Walk forward, knowing you wear the mark of divine favor. Others may not understand, but they will see the difference. Your crown speaks louder than words. It announces to the world that you have passed the test. And now you reign in the grace of God. Heaven's ledger is open. There is a divine account with your name written on it. And the balance is not in red. Every seed you sowed in faith, every sacrifice you made in silence, every act of obedience that seemed to go unnoticed, none of it has been lost. God is not a debtor to any man. What you poured out has been carefully stored. And now, the time of release has come. You may have thought, did my prayers matter? Did my giving matter? Did my endurance matter? And the answer from heaven is resounding, yes. Nothing you did out of love and obedience was wasted. There is a record, and the record has matured into harvest. Just as farmers wait through seasons where nothing seems to sprout, your patient waiting has now reached its appointed moment. The books are being balanced, and the harvest is being delivered. Think of Joseph again, who served faithfully in Potiphar's house and then in prison. For years, his service seemed ignored, but suddenly, in one day, all the years of hidden faithfulness became the very reason Pharaoh placed authority on his shoulders. Joseph's ledger was filled with unseen acts of obedience, and when God opened the account, his life shifted from dungeon to palace. You, too, are on the verge of such a shift. There was once a small church that served a broken community. Week after week, the congregation prayed, gave, and helped their neighbors, even though resources were scarce. For years, nothing seemed to change. But then, an unexpected blessing came, a partnership that provided funding, opportunities, and favor. What they had been faithfully sowing in secret came back, multiplied. They realized God had kept record all along. Your life carries the same truth. God's ledger never forgets. This is why you feel a stirring in your spirit. It is the sound of heaven's treasury being unlocked. Where you once walked in lack, doors are opening. Where you once faced rejection, divine acceptance is meeting you. What was withheld is now being released. The ancient words recorded in Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 22, remind us, the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Then, what this means is simple but profound. Resources you did not earn by striving. Opportunities you did not manufacture. Provision that seemed out of reach. All of it is being redirected to you because of covenant. God does not simply meet needs, He funds destinies, and your destiny requires supply. Think of the ledger like a book filled with two columns. What was poured out and what is returned. You poured out tears. You poured out faith. You poured out obedience. And now, heaven fills the other side of the page. Provision, joy, open doors, opportunities, peace. The exchange is happening, and you are stepping into it. This is not only about money. Heaven's ledger includes peace you cannot buy, favor that opens doors without resumes, healing that medicine cannot provide, relationships restored beyond human effort. This is comprehensive funding for every area of your life. And here is where you act in faith. Type the number 222 in the comments. Why this number? Because it represents divine confirmation and agreement. In the scriptures, a matter is established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. By declaring 222, you are aligning with heaven's witness over your life, saying, "It is confirmed, it is established, it is mine." Oh, do not underestimate this prophetic act. It is not about digits on a screen. It is about agreement with heaven. When you type 222, you are declaring that what God promised is no longer in negotiation. It is settled. It is certain. And it is being released into your life. Understand this. Earthly systems may fail, but heaven's treasury cannot be emptied. When God funds, He funds fully. When He opens His ledger, nothing is missing. Nothing is delayed. Nothing is overlooked. You are not walking into crumbs from the table, you are stepping into the feast. Picture yourself walking into a grand hall where a banquet is set, and a seat has been reserved with your name. For years, you thought you were not invited. For years, you lingered outside the door, hungry and uncertain. But now the host himself comes, takes you by the hand, and leads you to your place. That is what heaven is doing now, bringing you into what was always prepared for you. Your life is shifting because the books are open. What was recorded in secret is being rewarded in public. You will look back and realize that nothing was wasted, nothing forgotten, nothing overlooked. God's ledger is perfect, and it declares abundance over you. So stand with confidence. The account is open. The balance is in your favor, and the release has already begun. Your season of scarcity is ending. The wilderness, with its dry soil and endless waiting, has served its purpose. It taught you how to trust. It stripped away false supports. It revealed what truly matters. But the wilderness was never your permanent home. It was only the passage. You are crossing over now, moving from lack into overflow. There is a rhythm in God's dealings with His people: testing, trusting, and then provision. Israel knew the wilderness, where manna fell one day at a time. But they also knew the promised land, where the fruit of the land was abundant. You, too, are moving from survival to overflow. What once trickled into your life will now flow like a river. Scarcity had a role in your story. It taught you to recognize the value of even small mercies. It trained you to give thanks for what others overlooked. It made you depend on prayer when other resources dried up. And now, that same scarcity has become the backdrop for your testimony. When abundance arrives, you will not mistake it as random. You will know it is God's hand. Consider the widow of Zarephath. Her jar of flour and jug of oil seemed too small to sustain life. Yet when she obeyed the word of the prophet, that little never ran out. What looked like lack became the setting for a miracle. In the same way, what once looked like not enough in your life is about to reveal itself as the ground for supernatural overflow. Think of a riverbed during dry season. Cracked earth, dust rising, nothing to drink, yet hidden underground. Water is still moving. Then the rains come, and suddenly the riverbed bursts with life again. That is what is happening in your life. The underground streams of God's provision have always been flowing, but now the rains are coming to break open what has been hidden, according to what is revealed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 8. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. This is not simply about having more, it is about being positioned to do more. Overflow is not for hoarding, it is for impact. Your life will become a channel, not a container. What flows to you will also flow through you, touching others, meeting needs, breaking chains. The blessing that rests on you will ripple outward like waves spreading across the sea. I recall a story of a man who struggled for years with just enough to survive. Paychecks barely covered expenses, and he lived constantly on edge. But in that season, he developed a habit of gratitude. He thanked God for meals that others might dismiss, for a roof that was not perfect, but still sheltered him. When the breakthrough came, when opportunities multiplied and provision overflowed, he remained the same grateful man. The difference was, his gratitude now had more to give away. Scarcity trained his heart for abundance. This is why your season of lack was never wasted. It was training ground. It prepared you to recognize the source. It gave you eyes to see the miracle in small beginnings. So when great provision arrives, you will not forget who sent it. Your new season will not be measured merely by possessions, but by peace, stability, and fruitfulness. You will notice that where there was once anxiety, there is now calm. Where you once feared tomorrow, you will begin to anticipate it with hope. Where you once asked, "Will it be enough?" you will begin to ask, "Who can I bless with this?" Just as Joseph stored grain in the years of plenty to sustain nations in famine, your overflow will not only sustain you, but will position you as a source for others. People will come to you not simply because of what you have, but because of the wisdom and faith you carry. You are moving from gathering crumbs to distributing bread, from counting coins to stewarding abundance, from asking for help to becoming a helper. This is the divine reversal God specializes in, and it is unfolding over your life now. Lift your vision higher. Do not measure your tomorrow by yesterday's lack. The God who carried you through wilderness has brought you into a land of promise. The rivers are flowing, the jars are filling, and your table is being prepared in sight of all who doubted. Your scarcity has ended. Your overflow has begun. Those who mocked you will soon witness your elevation. For a long time, you were the subject of whispers, the one people doubted, the one overlooked or even ridiculed. They saw your struggle but not your purpose. They assumed your silence meant defeat, that your setbacks were permanent. But God has been writing a different story. The very people who dismissed you will be the ones to watch you rise. There is a divine reversal woven into the ways of God. Hannah knew it when Peninnah mocked her barrenness, only for her to later cradle Samuel, the prophet who would anoint kings. Joseph knew it when his brothers sold him into slavery, only to later bow before him in Egypt. David knew it when Saul hunted him like prey, only to one day see the throne placed upon his head. And you will know it too. The laughter of your enemies will turn into the backdrop for your vindication. Consider the potter and the clay. While the clay spins on the wheel, it looks formless, messy, unimpressive. If someone glances at that stage, they might laugh at its appearance. but the potter is not finished. When the shaping is complete and the vessel is placed on display, those who mocked its beginning can only marvel at its end. You are that vessel. The ridicule you endured was aimed at an unfinished version of you. But now, as the shaping nears completion, your life will speak louder than their words ever did. I remember the story of a man who quietly built his business while many around him called him foolish. His methods were unusual, his pace slower than others. Competitors laughed, saying he would never succeed. Yet he remained steady, guided by integrity. Years later, when the market shifted, his business stood firm while others collapsed. The same people who mocked him sought his advice. He realized that their mockery was only noise compared to God's quiet preparation. So it will be with you. The seasons when you were underestimated will become proof of God's handiwork. The very tables where you were once denied a seat will one day invite you to lead. This is not arrogance, this is divine justice. For every moment you were laughed at, you will carry double honor, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 15, although you have been forsaken and hated, with no one traveling through, I will make you the everlasting pride and the joy of all generations. Indeed, this is not simply poetic language, it is a prophetic reality. You were forsaken. Yes. You were laughed at. Yes. But now, God declares joy and honor in place of shame. The ground that once carried the echo of insults will soon carry the sound of your testimony. Imagine a garden in winter, where branches look dead and lifeless. Passers-by may sneer, thinking nothing will come from it. Yet when spring arrives, blossoms appear, and the same tree they mocked becomes the tree they admire. That is your story. Your spring has come. Do not waste your energy on bitterness toward those who doubted you. They were part of the process. Instruments unknowingly used to refine you. Without their mockery, you might not have pressed so deeply into prayer. Without their rejection, you might not have leaned so fully on God. Their insults became your fuel. Their rejection became your redirection. Now their eyes will become witnesses, and your life will be the sermon they cannot ignore. This shift is not for the sake of revenge, it is for the sake of testimony. God is not interested in humiliating your enemies. He is interested in glorifying himself through your elevation. And when others see what he has done in you, they will have no choice but to acknowledge his hand. Some will repent. Some will seek the God you serve. And some will simply marvel in silence. Either way, the result is the same, his glory revealed through your story. So lift your head. Do not dwell on past laughter. It is already turning into awe. The voices that once declared failure will be silenced by the undeniable evidence of your success. And you will walk forward, not with pride, but with humility, knowing it was never your strength, but God's grace that lifted you. Your vindication is not coming, it has already begun. Those who mocked will watch. Those who doubted will see. And those who thought you would stay buried will witness the stone rolled away. Your hands are about to prosper. For too long, it felt as though everything you touched slipped away. Projects started with hope, ended in disappointment. Opportunities seemed bright, but faded too quickly. It left you questioning whether your hands were cursed, whether your efforts were wasted. But the truth is far different. Your hands were being prepared. They were being trained for stewardship, not just survival. There is a principle hidden in Scripture. When God blesses, He does not only bless the heart, He blesses the hands. Hands build, hands plant, hands serve, hands give. And when God breathes on your work, what once produced little begins to multiply. You are entering a season where what you touch will no longer fail, it will flourish. Think of Peter, who fished all night and caught nothing. His hands were tired. His nets were empty. His hope was thin. Then Jesus stepped into his boat. With one word, the same hands that pulled up empty nets suddenly overflowed with fish. The difference was not in the skill of his hands, but in the presence of God, blessing the work of those hands. This is the shift now coming upon you. Your hands will prosper not because of new methods alone, but because of divine breath. Just as a farmer can sow seed faithfully, only God can bring the rain. You have been sowing, and now the rains of heaven are falling. I recall the story of a woman who worked tirelessly with her small home bakery. For years, she sold only a few loaves a week. People told her to quit, to find something more stable. But she kept baking, kept praying over her bread, and kept blessing her customers. One day, unexpectedly, a large store discovered her products and offered a contract. Within months, her small kitchen could not keep up with demand. Her hands, which once struggled, had now been blessed with overflow. As recorded in the book of Psalm, chapter 90, verse 17, may the favor of the Lord our God rest on us, establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. This prayerful declaration is perfectly aligned with your story. The Lord does not just bless intentions, He establishes the very work of your hands, securing fruit where there was once frustration. Imagine a gardener planting seeds. At first, there is only soil, silent and plain. But beneath the surface, roots spread, unseen. Then, suddenly, green shoots break through, blossoms appear, and fruit forms. That is what is happening in your life. For years, it looked like nothing was growing, but beneath the surface, God was preparing roots of prosperity. Now, the blossoms of your labor are breaking forth. And here is what I want you to boldly declare in the comments. My hands prosper. This is more than a phrase. It is a prophetic act. By writing it, you are declaring agreement with God's word over your life. You are rejecting the lie of failure and embracing the truth of multiplication. Every time you see those words, remind yourself, your hands are not empty, they are anointed. Do not underestimate this declaration. It is short, but it carries authority. Heaven responds to agreement. When you type, "My hands prosper," you are marking your season, setting a banner over your future, and aligning your faith with God's blessing. So walk forward with confidence. What you touch will carry life. The projects you begin will not wither, they will multiply. The work of your hands will testify that God Himself has breathed upon you. Where there was once frustration, there will now be fruit. Where there was once emptiness, there will now be abundance. Your hands are no longer weary, they are ready. Lift them, use them, and watch them prosper under the covering of God's promise. And when your hands prosper, it will not just be for your benefit. The blessing that flows through you will touch your family, your community, and even strangers you do not yet know. You will see doors open that were once locked, and opportunities come to you that you never pursued. Every skill, every talent, every effort that once felt overlooked will now carry divine recognition. What your hands create will bear the mark of heaven. Undeniable and unstoppable. Your season of frustration has ended. Now begins the season of fruitfulness. The same hands that once trembled with uncertainty will now rise with confidence, carrying abundance and building testimonies that glorify God alone. Doors you did not knock on are about to open. For so long, you pushed, you knocked, you asked, and many doors remained closed. At times, it felt unfair why others seemed to enter easily while you stood outside waiting. But what you could not see was that heaven was reserving a set of doors specifically for you. Doors that no man can shut. Doors that lead not to disappointment, but to destiny. These doors are not ordinary. They are not the kind that lead to temporary relief, but the kind that shift entire seasons. You do not need to strive to push them open. They are opening by divine appointment. Opportunities are being released into your path, not because of manipulation, not because of networking alone, but because of God's favor. What you could not achieve by effort, you will now walk into by grace. I think of Esther, a woman who never lobbied for a crown, never campaigned for recognition, yet doors opened into the palace, and suddenly she was positioned to save an entire nation. She did not knock on the door of royalty. Royalty came searching for her. That is what is happening for you. You may not even be prepared to knock, but heaven has already sent someone to open the door on your behalf. There was once a man who felt stuck in his career. Years of sending applications ended in silence. Then, unexpectedly, a company sought him out. He had not applied. They had discovered his work and invited him to a position higher than he ever imagined. He later said, "It felt as if the door came to me." That is what divine favor does. It makes doors move in your direction. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Revelation, chapter 3, verse 8, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." This verse is not a promise for someday. It is a declaration for now. The open door is already in place. You do not need to beg for it. It is set, secured, and sealed by God's authority. Think of a hallway filled with locked doors. For years you tried key after key, and each one failed. Then suddenly, one door swings open on its own. That is what this season will feel like. Where you once exhausted yourself trying, you will now simply step into what has been prepared. But hear this clearly. The doors are not opening for comfort alone. They are opening for assignment. With every open door comes responsibility. God is not simply blessing you to make life easier. He is positioning you to influence, to serve, to lead. The opportunities ahead are not random. They are aligned with the purpose you carry. So how should you respond? Walk humbly. Enter the new spaces, not with arrogance, but with gratitude. Recognize that what is opening to you is not because of who you know, but because of who knows you, your Father in heaven. And as you step through, carry others with you. Open doors for those behind you, just as heaven is opening doors for you. This is also a season where your voice matters. By sharing what God is doing in your life, you allow others to find courage for their own. When you like, share, or subscribe to this message, you are extending the doorway so another weary soul can find their way in. Your simple action becomes a key for someone else's breakthrough. And if you feel led, consider sowing through a gift or donation. Every seed placed here helps widen the reach, carrying this word to those who most need to hear. Your door is opening. It is not about obligation, but about participation, becoming part of the movement of open doors in this generation. Remember this: you are stepping into doors you did not even have the strength to knock on. And when you walk through, you will know beyond doubt it was not chance, not coincidence, but covenant. God Himself placed those doors before you. Lift your eyes with expectation. The hallway of closed doors is behind you. Ahead is the open space, the wide entrance, the divine invitation. Step forward, for the doors are waiting, and heaven itself is holding them wide for you. And when you cross through, remember you are not stepping in alone. The same God who opened the way will walk with you inside. Every room you enter carries His presence. Every opportunity bears His signature, and every step confirms His covenant. Acceleration is upon you. What once took years will now take months. What once demanded months will now unfold in days. The pace of heaven is different from the pace of earth. And when God decides to move quickly, no resistance can hold Him back. You are about to experience sudden shifts, moments where delay gives way to breakthrough. And long prayed for answers arrive faster than you imagined. For a long time, it seemed like your life was moving in slow motion. Every step forward felt hindered. Every dream seemed to stall. Others advanced while you were stuck waiting. But heaven's timing is not measured by human clocks. While you thought nothing was happening, God was aligning circumstances, preparing people, and orchestrating moments. Now, everything is converging, and acceleration has begun. Think of Elijah on Mount Carmel. After years of drought, he prayed for rain. At first, there was nothing, only clear skies. But then, a small cloud appeared, the size of a man's hand. Soon after, the heavens broke open with abundance. Acceleration turned drought into downpour, silence into sound, waiting into fulfillment. That is your story now. What looked like a long, dry silence will quickly transform into overflowing answers. Acceleration can feel overwhelming. Doors that stayed shut for years suddenly swing wide. Conversations that once took months to arrange now happen in a single call. Relationships that felt stagnant suddenly blossom. The Spirit of God compresses time, redeeming what was lost and multiplying what remains. I recall a story of a man who prayed for years for healing in his family. It felt like a slow drip, with little progress. Then suddenly, in a span of 1 week, reconciliation came. Relationships mended, and laughter returned to his home. What seemed impossible for years was resolved in days. He said later, "It was like watching years collapse into a moment." That is the essence of prophetic acceleration. We find in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman, and the planter by the one treading grapes. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills." This image is breathtaking. It describes a season where sowing and reaping overlap, where harvest comes so quickly it overtakes the act of planting. No more endless waiting, no more exhausting delays, just overflow and speed. The rhythm of heaven overtaking the rhythm of earth. Imagine planting a seed and seeing sprouts break the soil the very next day. Imagine investing effort into a project and watching results multiply beyond what you calculated. That is what acceleration feels like. Not because you rushed, but because heaven rushed toward you. But understand this: acceleration is not chaos. It is purposeful speed, ordered by divine wisdom. Just as a river flows faster after rain, yet still follows its course, so too your life will move quickly but not randomly. Every sudden shift will fit into the larger design of your calling. Sometimes acceleration comes because you have already been prepared in the hidden place. While you thought you were waiting, God was building muscles of faith, endurance, and wisdom within you. Now, when the doors open rapidly, you will not be overwhelmed. You will be ready. What looked like wasted years were actually preparation for sudden years. Picture a bowstring pulled back tightly. The tension feels endless, the waiting unbearable. Then, with one release, the arrow flies faster than the eye can follow. That is what has been happening in your life. The tension of waiting has only built the force of your acceleration. Do not fear this speed. Some will warn you, saying, "It is happening too fast." But what they call too fast is heaven's perfect timing. You are not moving recklessly, you are moving prophetically. And the same God who quickens the pace will also sustain your steps. This is why hope must rise in you now. No longer measure your future by your past delays. No longer assume that what once took 10 years will take 10 more. You are in a different rhythm now. The heavens have declared acceleration, and nothing can slow it down. Get ready to see. Long prayed for answers manifest quickly. Get ready to hear news that shifts your trajectory overnight. Get ready to wake up one morning to find that everything has changed. Because the God who redeems time is moving in your life. And when He moves, everything accelerates. There are contracts heaven has signed on your behalf. These are not written on paper with ink, but sealed with covenant and promise. Long before you even knew what you would need, God had already established agreements in the unseen realm to secure your future. What is unfolding now is not random. It is the manifestation of those divine contracts. You may have thought you were negotiating with people, presenting resumes, applying for opportunities. In reality, you were stepping into agreements heaven had already endorsed. The yes you are about to hear from man is only an echo of the yes God already spoke over you. Think of Abraham. Before he saw the land, before he held the promise, God had already declared covenant. His descendants would be as numerous as the stars, and nations would be blessed through him. Long before Abraham had a son, the contract was signed in heaven. That is how God works. He secures the outcome before you even begin the journey. I remember a woman who struggled for years to find stability in her career. She faced rejection after rejection, each one more discouraging than the last. What she didn't know was that God had already aligned the right position for her. One day, she received a call offering her a job she had not even applied for. The agreement was already settled. She simply stepped into it. So it is with you. God has signed contracts for your provision, your health, your protection, your destiny. These contracts are not fragile. They are eternal. Heaven itself guarantees them. And when heaven guarantees, No earthly force can cancel. The voice of God thundered in the book of Isaiah. Chapter 55. Verse 11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. End. This verse is a reminder that divine contracts are sealed with His word. Once spoken, they cannot be revoked. They must accomplish their purpose. What God has declared over your life will manifest. It is legally binding in the courts of heaven. Picture yourself standing before a great table, and on it lies a document with your name. Across the bottom, written in eternal ink, is the signature of the Lord Almighty. You did not sign this contract, He did. Your part is simply to agree, to walk into what is already settled. And here is how you can agree right now. Type the number 880, 8-inch the comments. Why 888? Because 8 is the number of new beginnings. 888 speaks of a complete cycle of renewal, a divine declaration that what is starting now is sealed and unstoppable. By writing 888, you are not creating the covenant, you are aligning yourself with the covenant already signed. It is a prophetic act saying, I step into my new beginning. I walk into what heaven has secured. And do not underestimate this. Numbers themselves do not carry power, but faith does. When you declare 888, it is not superstition, it is alignment. You are agreeing with heaven that the old contracts of failure, delay, and rejection are void, and the new contracts of favor, supply, and destiny are active. This is why you can rest, even when uncertainty surrounds you. You are not depending on fragile promises of people. You are walking under the covering of eternal contracts. The yes is already spoken. The provision is already secured. The path is already cleared. So lift your head. Walk boldly into opportunities you did not even know existed. Trust that the paperwork of heaven is stronger than any paper of man. Divine contracts are signed, sealed, and now delivered. And when you step into them, remember this: you are not striving for acceptance. You are stepping into inheritance. Contracts of man can be challenged, revoked, or broken, but divine contracts cannot be erased, for they are written not with ink, but with the breath of God. That is why fear must no longer dominate you. Your future is not in negotiation. It is already secured. You will look back on this moment and realize that even in seasons of silence, heaven was busy drafting your breakthrough. The signatures of God are already on the pages of your destiny. Now your part is simple. Walk forward with faith and watch the contracts unfold into reality. And as you walk, know this: no delay, no opposition, no voice of doubt can override what God has signed. His covenant stands firm. His promises hold fast, and His word will manifest fully in your life. The waiting room is closing. For years, it felt as if your life was on pause, promises hovering above you, but never quite landing. Dreams alive, but not yet visible. You prayed. You hoped. You prepared. And still the door remained shut. That season was not punishment. It was preparation. But now, the announcement has gone forth. No more delay. Waiting is one of the hardest classrooms of faith. It teaches patience, endurance, and surrender. You learn to release control, to trust God when the timeline made no sense, You discovered that your worth was not measured by speed or success, but by faithfulness. In the waiting, your roots went deep, anchoring you for storms you didn't even know were coming. The waiting room shaped you, but it was never meant to hold you forever. Think of Simeon in the temple. He had been promised that he would not die until he saw the Messiah. Years passed, and many probably thought he had misheard God. Yet one day, as Mary and Joseph carried baby Jesus into the temple, Simeon held the promise in his arms. In a single moment, years of waiting were fulfilled. That is the rhythm of God, long stretches of silence, broken by sudden fulfillment. There was once a young woman who longed for a child. Years of doctor visits and prayers seemed fruitless. She watched others celebrate while she carried disappointment quietly. But in time, the impossible became reality, and she held her child in her arms. Later, she said, "The waiting broke me, but it also built me, and when the promise came, I was ready to hold it." Well, the scriptures declare in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for the appointed time, though it linger. Wait for it, it will certainly come. It will not delay." Well, this verse carries both patience and promise. It acknowledges the lingering, the slowness that feels unbearable, but it also anchors the soul with certainty. It will come. Delay is never denial. It is alignment. God does not miss his timing. He waits until everything is positioned: your heart, your circumstances, even the people around you. And then, what seemed delayed arrives right on time. Imagine a train approaching the station. You stand waiting, unsure if it will arrive. The minutes stretch on, testing your patience. But suddenly, in the distance, you hear the rumble, and the train pulls in at its scheduled moment. That is how the promises of God operate. They may feel late to you, but they are perfectly timed by Him. Your waiting has not been wasted. In the waiting, you learned resilience. In the waiting, you shed distractions. In the waiting, you discovered the presence of God in deeper ways than you could have in constant motion. Now, the waiting is ending, and you are stepping into fulfillment. No more waiting to be recognized. You will be seen. No more waiting for opportunities. They are arriving. No more waiting for breakthrough. It is already unfolding. The waiting room is closing its doors because the time has come for you to move forward. But do not forget the lessons of the waiting. Do not despise what was built in you during those quiet, hidden years. The humility, the patience, the endurance. These are treasures you carry with you into your new season. They will keep you grounded when the pace quickens, when the blessings multiply, when the promises manifest. There is something holy about this transition. You can almost sense the shift, like the first light of dawn breaking after a long night. You feel the tension easing, the atmosphere changing. This is not imagination. It is the reality of God moving you from delay into destiny. So stand tall. Shake off the dust of disappointment. Step out of the waiting room with confidence. The time has come. The vision is unfolding. The promises are manifesting. What lingered is now arriving. What tarried is now at the door. The waiting has ended, and your appointed time is here. And when you step out, you will notice how light your spirit feels. The heaviness of delay will lift, replaced by fresh strength and expectation. Every lesson of patience, every scar of endurance, Every tear shed in faith has prepared you for this moment. You are stepping not into uncertainty, but into fulfillment, carrying the wisdom of waiting into the joy of promise realized. This is the turning of the page, the shift of the season. The waiting room is behind you, and ahead lies the open path where destiny unfolds quickly, clearly, and powerfully under the hand of God. Provision is flowing toward you in ways you could not predict. Needs that once caused anxiety will now be met before you even have the chance to ask. This is the nature of supernatural supply. It moves faster than your requests. Because God already knows what you need before a word leaves your lips. You spent years worrying over how the bills would be paid, how the future would unfold, how resources would be gathered. You carried the weight of survival, thinking it was yours alone to manage. But the truth is, your Father in heaven was never absent. He was quietly providing in small ways, sustaining you in hidden miracles. And now, He is increasing that flow so that provision is no longer a daily worry, but a daily testimony. Think of Israel in the wilderness. Before they even knew how to ask, manna fell from the sky each morning. When they thirsted, water burst from a rock. God did not wait for them to devise solutions. He provided because He is provider. That same pattern is true in your life. Where you once felt the weight of unanswered need, you are about to feel the ease of supernatural provision. I recall the story of a father who had lost his job unexpectedly, with no savings and a family to feed. Fear gripped his heart. Yet, week after week, unexpected provisions arrived. Groceries left at the door. Envelopes slipped anonymously into the mailbox. A temporary job that came without him searching. Later, he discovered that friends and strangers alike had felt prompted to help at the exact moments he needed it. He said, "I never even prayed for some of it. God provided before I could form the words." That is the power of supernatural supply. It outruns your prayers. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 31 to 32, "So do not worry, saying, 'What shall we eat?' or 'What shall we drink?' or 'What shall we wear?' For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them." And 1. This is not only comfort, it is a command. Do not worry. Why? Because the one who knows your needs has already taken responsibility for them. Heaven is not surprised by your circumstances. Your Father is not scrambling to make ends meet. He is the author of abundance, and He has already written provision into your story. Imagine standing in a barren desert, the sun blazing, no food in sight. Suddenly, rain clouds gather, and manna begins to fall like dew upon the ground. That is what your new season will feel like, where there seemed to be no supply. Heaven will interrupt with abundance. But provision in this season is not just about material needs. It includes peace in your mind, clarity in your decisions, strength in your body, and relationships that sustain you. You are being covered on every side. Your needs will not chase you. You will walk into rooms where the answer is already waiting. Sometimes provision comes through unexpected channels. A job offer you never applied for. A relationship that becomes the bridge to resources. A solution appearing before you even realized there was a problem. This is how heaven demonstrates its wisdom, by reminding you that your life is not sustained by human calculation, but by divine orchestration. Do not mistake this season of supply for indulgence. It is not about hoarding, It is about freedom. God is freeing you from the grip of constant worry so that your heart can focus on higher assignments. When your needs are met, your energy is no longer consumed by anxiety. Instead, it is released into purpose. Provision is not the end, it is the means by which you step fully into destiny. Think again of the disciples. When Jesus fed the 5,000, they saw lack, only 5 loaves and 2 fish. But in his hands, it multiplied until not only were the people fed, but baskets of leftovers remained. That is the rhythm of supernatural supply, enough for you and enough to bless others. Your life will now become like those baskets overflowing, not only sustaining your household, but spilling over to touch those around you. The provision is coming not just to meet your need, but to make you a channel of blessing. Lift your eyes from fear. Do not calculate based on your resources alone. Remember that your Father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and every resource of earth belongs to him. The one who clothes lilies and feeds sparrows has called you his child. Will he not do much more for you? Provision has already left heaven's storehouse. You will walk into it. Sometimes, even without asking, needs will meet answers. Questions will meet solutions. Hunger will meet bread. And through it all, you will know it was never luck, never coincidence. It was always the hand of your Father, moving ahead of you in love. You are becoming a living testimony, not just someone who speaks about God's goodness, but someone whose very life embodies it. The shift in your journey is so evident that others will not need convincing. They will see it. They will feel it. And they will know something beyond human effort has touched you. For years, your testimony was written in tears and hidden endurance. You carried the weight of trials silently, praying for the day when the story would change. That day has come. Your life itself will now be a message, a sermon written not on pages but in flesh and blood. You will walk into rooms and shift atmospheres simply by carrying the undeniable evidence of God's faithfulness. Think of Lazarus. When he was raised from the dead, he did not need to preach a sermon. His very existence was testimony enough. Crowds gathered not only to hear Jesus, but to see Lazarus. Because his life proved the miracle, that is what your life will be, living evidence of resurrection, breakthrough, and divine favor. I recall the story of a man who battled illness for years. Doctors gave little hope, and friends quietly prepared for the worst. Yet he clung to faith, trusting God through the pain. Then, suddenly, his health shifted. What was impossible became possible. Later, when people saw him walking with strength, they didn't need an explanation. His very presence was the testimony. He said, "I used to tell people about miracles. Now I am one. According to what is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, they will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord, for the display of his splendor." This verse describes you now. You are no longer merely surviving storms. You are standing tall like an oak, unshaken, deeply rooted, and visibly strong. And your strength is not for your own glory, but for the display of God's splendor. When others look at your story, they will see proof that God restores, that he elevates, that he funds and sustains. You will not need to persuade. Your life itself will persuade. You are a walking billboard of God's mercy and power. But testimonies are not meant to be hidden. They are meant to be shared, echoed, and multiplied. When you share what God has done, you ignite hope in others. That is why I encourage you now, if this word resonates with you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. These simple actions are not just digital gestures, they are ways of spreading testimony, ensuring others in the shadows can hear. If God did it for them, He can do it for me. Oh, and I invite you further. Leave a comment below. Share your own testimony, even in one sentence. When you write it, you are not only declaring it to others, you are sealing it in your own spirit. There is power in speaking your testimony aloud, power in typing it, power in declaring it for others to witness. If you feel stirred, you can also support this work through a seed, a gift, a donation. Every act of generosity ensures that testimonies like yours continue to travel across nations, reaching the broken, the weary, the forgotten. You become part of the testimony, part of the story God is writing in countless lives. Remember this, testimonies are contagious. When one rises, others rise. When one speaks, others find courage to speak. Your testimony will be the spark that lights the flame in someone else's dark night. Imagine walking into a room with your head lifted high, no longer explaining your past struggles, but simply radiating the evidence of victory. Imagine someone looking at you and saying, "If they made it through, so can I." That is the power of a living testimony. It multiplies hope. So carry your story boldly. Do not hide it. You are not defined by your pain, but by your survival. Not by your losses, but by your victories. Let your life speak. Let your testimonies shine. And let it echo across every place God sends you. You are not just a believer, you are a display, an exhibit of God's glory. And when others see you, they will know He is faithful, He is generous, He is real. Carry this testimony like a torch in the night. Let it guide others who are still searching, still waiting, still hurting. Your story is not merely survival, it is light. And as you shine, you will awaken hope in places where darkness thought it had won. Rest is coming over your life. For too long, you have been running fighting battles, enduring storms, carrying burdens that weighed heavier than words could express. Your nights were restless, your days filled with striving. Even in moments of stillness, your heart raced with anxiety, always anticipating the next problem, the next demand, the next disappointment. But now, the Lord is bringing you into rest. A rest not just for your body, but for your soul. Rest does not mean inactivity, it means security. It is the place where you no longer feel the constant need to fight for survival because you know heaven is covering you. It is the posture of trusting hands, letting go of the grip you had on everything, and allowing God to hold what you could not carry. Consider Noah. After the floodwaters raged, after the chaos of the storm, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. That rest was not just the stopping of movement, it was the beginning of new life, the dawn of a fresh covenant. You, too, are stepping into that kind of rest. The storms may have shaped you, but they will not define you. Your ark is coming to rest, and new beginnings are waiting. I recall a woman who lived in constant striving. Her calendar was always full, her energy always stretched, her heart always restless. She thought peace would come when she achieved more, earned more, did more. But eventually, exhaustion forced her to stop. In that pause, she discovered that peace was not in doing, but in being anchored in God's presence, being secure in His promises. From then on, she worked with ease, no longer chasing, but walking confidently. That is the kind of rest you are stepping into. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 25. I will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. This is not a suggestion, it is a declaration. You who are weary will be refreshed. You who are faint will be satisfied. Rest is not something you earn, it is something God gives. It flows from His heart into yours, calming the turbulence and steadying the storms. Imagine an eagle soaring high above the winds. It is not flapping furiously, burning itself out with every motion. It spreads its wings and rides the current, letting the wind carry it higher. That is rest. It is not about giving up. It is about aligning with the current of God's Spirit so that you are carried higher without exhausting yourself. Rest is also protection. When sheep lie down in green pastures, it is because they know the shepherd is near. David understood this when he wrote about lying down in safety, fearing no evil, because God was with him. You, too, will now live from that assurance. You can rest, because the shepherd is watching. Do not confuse rest with laziness. Rest is strength. Rest is clarity. Rest allows you to hear God's voice more clearly, to see direction more plainly, to recover joy that striving stole from you. Rest is holy. That is why God Himself rested on the seventh day, not because He was tired, but because He wanted to establish rest as part of the rhythm of life. Your rest will look like this: nights where sleep comes easily, mornings where you rise with energy, days where your heart feels light, even in the midst of responsibility. Burdens that once weighed on your chest will roll away. Anxieties that once filled your thoughts will dissolve. And in that rest, creativity will flow, relationships will thrive, and strength will multiply. Think of a river that flows gently yet powerfully. On the surface, it appears calm, but beneath, it carries incredible force. That is what your rested life will be: calm in appearance, powerful in substance. Rested people are not weak, they are unshakable, because they move from a place of security in God. So, release the constant striving. Lay down the battles that were never yours to fight. Let go of the anxieties that drained you. The rest of God is covering you like a blanket, quieting your soul and filling your spirit. You are entering a season where rest is not a luxury, but your new normal. Rest in His promises. Rest in His provision. Rest in His presence. For when you are rested in Him, nothing can disturb the peace He has secured for you. And in that rest, you will find renewal. Old wounds will heal. Clarity will rise. And strength will return. Rest is not the end of your journey. It is the foundation from which you will rise stronger, brighter, and ready for the next assignment God places before you. Glory is about to rest upon you, not the fleeting kind that people chase, not recognition that fades with time, but the radiant covering of God's own presence marking your life. This is the crown of those who endured the fire, who passed through the waters, who chose faith when fear whispered louder. You are stepping into a season where glory will distinguish you, not because of your strength, but because of his. Glory is weighty. It is not mere applause or admiration. It is the tangible evidence that heaven is near, that God's fingerprints are visible in everything you do. When the glory of God rests on a person, they become a signpost, pointing others to him without even speaking. Moses knew this. When he came down from Mount Sinai, his face shone so brightly that the people trembled. He had not sought glory for himself. He had simply lingered in God's presence. This is what your life is becoming. You will shine with a light that cannot be explained by effort, talent, or personality. People will sense peace around you, feel hope rise in your presence, and encounter God simply by observing how you walk through life. Glory will be your covering, and it will be undeniable. I recall a young man who came from years of hardship, poverty, rejection, disappointment. Nothing about his background suggested greatness. Yet as he devoted himself to prayer and obedience, something shifted. Doors opened where none should have existed. Wisdom flowed from his mouth, though he had little formal education, and joy seemed to follow him everywhere. Those who knew his past could only say, "This must be God." That is glory, not man's achievement, but God's imprint on a life. The ancient words recorded in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 9, still echo today. The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, declares the Lord Almighty, and in this place I will grant peace. Mercy, this is your promise. What lies ahead will outshine what lies behind. Your past victories, as sweet as they were, cannot compare to the glory that is being revealed now. Your scars will not disqualify you. They will only magnify the beauty of his restoration. The house of your life broken, repair, and rebuilt will now shine brighter than it ever has. Imagine a sunrise breaking after a long night. The darkness does not fight. It simply retreats because the light has come. That is how glory works. It does not demand attention. It simply shines. And darkness has no choice but to flee. Glory will mark you in ways you cannot orchestrate. Conversations will open because of it. Opportunities will come, not because of your resume, but because people sense something different about you. Glory attracts, not for your sake, but for God's purposes. Those who are lost will find direction. Those who are broken will find hope. And those who are doubtful will find faith through what God does in you. But glory is not just for display, it is for assignment. It carries responsibility. When God's glory rests on you, it is an invitation to steward it with humility. This is not a time for pride or self-exaltation. Glory is not meant to elevate you above others. It is meant to lift others through you. The more glory rests, the more humility must grow. Think of gold refined in fire. It emerges radiant, but only because it endured heat. The same is true for you. The fire of trials has refined you, and now glory is the evidence of what remained pure. Do not despise the fire. It was the doorway to this moment. Your life will now be a sanctuary where others encounter God's presence. Homes you walk into will feel lighter. Conversations you hold will carry weight. Even your silence will speak, because glory cannot be hidden. This is what it means to be chosen, not merely to be blessed, but to become a blessing through the reflection of His splendor. So, walk forward with reverence. Do not chase the applause of man. It is too small for what you carry. Do not shrink back in false humility either. Simply walk. Shine, and let God's glory do what only it can: transform atmospheres, awaken faith, and glorify His name. You have passed the tests, endured the waiting, embraced the lessons, and now the crown of glory rests upon you. This is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a greater chapter, one marked not by striving, but by shining. And as you shine, may every step you take reflect heaven's light, carrying peace, hope, and strength to those still searching. You have walked through the message, step by step, and now you stand at the conclusion, not as the same person who began, but as one who has seen your reflection in the words of heaven. You are marked, you are funded, you are sustained. The crown of glory rests upon you, and the provision of God surrounds you. Your story from this day forward will not be defined by lack, but by abundance. Not by fear, but by faith. Not by striving, but by the unstoppable current of grace, carrying you into destiny. This is the moment to let the truth sink deep. You passed the tests, and heaven has opened its treasury over your life. Your part now is to walk boldly, to live as one chosen, and to shine in every place you are planted. Let your life itself preach the sermon of God's goodness. And as this message draws to a close, I invite you to extend the testimony further. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. These simple acts are not about numbers, they are about reaching the next weary soul who needs to hear. You are chosen, you are funded, you are sustained. I also encourage you, leave a comment below. Even just one sentence about what spoke to your heart. When you write it, you give language to your faith, and you plant courage for someone else scrolling in silence. Finally, if you feel stirred, you may sow into this word through a gift or a donation. Every seed helps carry messages like this to the corners of the earth, where someone right now is desperate for hope. Your journey continues, but you do not walk alone. Heaven walks with you, and glory rests on you. And as you go, may peace surround your steps, wisdom fill your decisions, and joy overflow in your spirit. Remember, what God has begun, He will surely complete. You are stepping into days where favor follows you, provision meets you, and destiny embraces you. Walk boldly, shine brightly, and let your life testify of His unfailing goodness.